What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty inaugural season, week number 4 action here, as we got another 8 games on tap. Should be some fantastic action for you guys, so hope you guys are excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new, as we see both teams coming out onto the field, as we have the Battle of South Dakota here to start this episode. Of South Dakota Coyotes taking on the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, one of the biggest rivalry games of the season, and taking place here in the Dakota Dome, as we'll see if head coach Justin Faith can get his guys together. They took a pretty tough loss last time out against Utah State, so we'll see how this team does, man, as South Dakota is driving downfield. They are across the 30-yard line, as this quarterback trying to get out of the run some kind of option, but Hall gets blown up in the backfield. The Jackrabbits were ready for that absolutely quickly, and so the Coyotes had to settle for a field goal, but it wouldn't be long until we see the first touchdown of the game being scored, and it is scored by the home team, as the Jackrabbits did end up sending the blitz, and the Jackrabbits, man, down 10-0 here quickly, and not looking great either, as starting quarterback number 1 takes an absolute shot. Surprised he didn't end up with a concussion there, as seems like the game plan for South Dakota is to send the blitz and send the blitz off often, as Johnson just simply does not really have too much time to think necessarily, as now Johnson looking over the middle. He was facing pressure on a 2nd and long, but Jason Boyd teed off him. He gets his first interception of the season. Except the Coyotes, they settled for a field goal there, as it's still a 2-possession game, 16-3. This could make it a 1-possession game, as he is going to be gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown, Jackrabbits. So coming out of the first half, we still got ourselves a pretty competitive game. Not necessarily the most high-scoring games, but hey, not every game has to be a track meet, except no one gave this man the memo, as he's taking it down the sideline. One man left to beat. He is also gonna be like a girl in a country song. He's gonna be gone for a touchdown. And just in a blink of the eye, the Coyotes taking a 2-touchdown lead once again, as the Jackrabbits have really struggled in this game in terms of going ahead and trying to establish that running game. It's been pretty rough for them overall, as Coyotes, meanwhile, they've been able to do whatever they want on the offensive side of the ball, able to get their ground game going, as they go with the triple option inside the 5-yard line and getting it out, the pitch out to the corner, as it was just a numbers games, man. Jackrabbits, they did not have the bodies to cover that option to the left-hand side, and it's a 30-10 game. Make it a 37-10 game, as South Dakota at their home stadium in the Dakota Dome is starting to really pull away with it here, as a 37-10 game here, as coach Justin Faith, give him some credit, his guys not giving up very easily, but in the first iteration of this rivalry within this FCS Dynasty universe, it's going to go to the Coyotes, as they win big here in game number 1, defeating the Jackrabbits by a final score of 40-10, and Coyotes will improve to 2-1. But we have quite a few top 25 matchups in this one. We actually have 2 top 25 matchups in this game specifically, one of which is Akron going up against Mid-Tennessee State. Now, this is the game of the week here, as we will take a look at the number 9 team in college football, at least in this university, Akron Zips. But, you know, going on the road is always certainly going to be a challenge, as we check out who Lee Corso is going to select, and he's going with the Akron Zips. Now, keep in mind that is not always a good thing with the Lee Corso picks, because, well, when Lee Corso picks, it tends to not go well for him. Last game in the week between North Texas and Mid-Tennessee State, North Texas won that game, and Lee Corso did not pick North Texas. And right now, seems like that Lee Corso curse that we have going on is still going, but nice play on defense, though, as Brandon Woods is able to intercept that pass. It's going to be his first interception of the game. So the score will remain 7-0 for the time being, as the Blue Raiders are going to have to go ahead and punt this thing away. Brandon Woods, who made the interception earlier, he's going to field this, and he's got some room down on the sideline, and that is going to be gone. Touchdown, Akron, and a 75-yard touchdown return is going to nod things up here at 7 apiece, as we have really seen Kevin Hill struggle in this one. Only 4 for 16 in this game so far. We'll see if he can go ahead and turn it around, trying to throw it deep downfield, and his receiver makes a play. He's even stunned on him at the end. Oh, the disrespect. They would call that a penalty in modern college football. But back then, the refs actually had a backbone. And so, not a penalty, of course. It still counts as a touchdown. As does this pass in the corner of the end zone, looking for his tight end. Of course, wide, butt naked open. And now a 2-possession lead for the Blue Raiders, as Akron looks to respond, but facing a heavy pressure, though, from the left end. And for the second time today, the Akron Zips do go ahead and turn the football over. So a convincing victory for the Blue Raiders for sure. Should be 24-7, but instead of kneeing it, they send a message. They score on the very last play of the game. Yo, the disrespect right there, that is absolutely crazy. But nonetheless, the Blue Raiders do end up going ahead and sending that message that they were looking for. They get a convincing victory at home in non-conference play. They beat a top 10 team on their home turf, and doing so, winning by 23. This is just a dominant day. Akron only getting 32 yards of total offense. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for their special teams, we wouldn't even have necessarily seen them scored. They would have had a goose egg, but either way, impressive victory for the Blue Raiders, as we now continue to move on this slate of FCS college football action, as we see Dion Kirby and his Morgan State squad taking on Alabama A&M, home of the Bulldogs. Try to see who is going to get their first victory of the season. Neither team has a goose egg on their win column, and it really comes down to this receiver right here, Ed Davis, man. Ed Davis is a bad man. He ended up with nearly 100 yards in the loss to the Wildcats, but really the big key for the Bears is to avoid turning over the football. If they can avoid doing that, then they should be fine, as Alabama A&M, honestly one of the lesser teams in this FCS dynasty, definitely have plenty of holes that they need to fill in through recruiting, as we still have no score here early in the first quarter. He's looking for his receiver, Ed Davis, and it's 2-on-1, and yet Ed Davis somehow comes down with it. Look at this, double coverage, and it still isn't enough to contain this man. That's absolutely insane. Not to mention he lays down a pretty crucial block as well, as Morgan State will strike first in this ball game. They will take a 7-0 lead here, as we go ahead and check in later in the first quarter. Ricky Johnson, the punter for Alabama A&M, been pretty busy this year so far. Already his 16th punt, and he's only, haven't even played for 3 games yet. You could tell the ineptitude of the Bulldog offense. And listen, if I'm showing special teams, either something's gone really good or really bad, and I would say this is a really good thing if you are rooting for Morgan State. 74-yard kick return for a touchdown, and immediately a 2-possession game, except Alabama A&M, they might seize a little bit of the MO, as after a free and out by the Bulldogs, they get a turnover, and look at this. We might have a little bit of a game after all. But alas, despite the fact that they had plus field position to work with, they can't turn that into any points, and this game just starts to get plain ugly at this point, man. Morgan State, we're not even through the first quarter, by the way. They're already up 21-0 here as the Bulldogs desperately trying to get something going. But Morgan State, they send the pressure, and they do manage to get it home to the quarterback, as that does end up being the very last play of the first quarter. And the Bulldogs going to have to try to regroup here in the second quarter if they have any chance to make this anything of a game, a competitive game, because so far it has really been all Morgan State as he breaks the tackle down the sideline, and it's another touchdown for the Morgan State Bears, as this team has hardly had the ball. They haven't even had the ball for 2 minutes in this game, and already up 28-0. And we already seen 2 special team touchdowns, but what about a potential hat trick here, as that punt was actually muffed? But even then, it doesn't matter. Morgan State continues to grow the lead. It's now 35-0, as John West just desperately trying to get his guys together here. He's the impact player in offense. They need his guys to come together here, and hey, that's a good throw at the very least, able to find his star receiver. But 4th and 10 from the 19, they don't trust their kicker, so they throw this thing towards the end zone, and that does also manage to go ahead and get intercepted. Tim Towie there with the coverage, his first interception of the game. So Alabama A&M, that was their best chance to score, but at this point, it really just comes down to really the lack of effort. You get 40+ points scored on you, not even in the first half. It's just been an ugly look so far. As last minute of the first half here, John West rolls out to his right. Beautiful ball over to Justin Barrett, and that gets him into the red zone. But not a successful red zone trip for Alabama A&M, as they have not gotten a touchdown yet this season, and was now 5 red zone trips, and that is still going to be the case. That's 5 red zone trips that Alabama A&M has made this season along, and that ball was just overthrown. Really, at the end of the day, you know, he had his receiver underneath, but he just sailed him, unfortunately, and thought it was going to cost him dearly. But Morgan State also turns the football over. This is what really hurt them in their matchup against Bethune-Cookman, is their inability to take care of the football. That's now 2 turnovers for them, as John West this time, he's going to find his receiver in the end zone, and finally Alabama A&M does get on the scoreboard. They will not have a goose egg on the scoreboard, that's for sure, so a positive sign there. But still down 42-7, and at some point you got to get some stops on defense. That certainly helps out the cause a little bit, able to return it to about the 30-31 yard line, as that's now 3 turnovers that Morgan State has had. Really, the only thing stopping this Bears offense is themselves, as able to throw it out to the perimeter. Gonna be another touchdown, and yeah, it does end up being a blowout. Bulldogs do end up playing better here in the second half, to be fair, and it becomes a little bit more competitive game towards the end, as Bulldogs do score 21, but still a big win for Morgan State, as that's the first win of the year. So one of the actual FCS teams that did make it into the top 25 poll recently is New Hampshire. They debuted into the top 25 as the number 22 team in the nation, so you already know we got to go ahead and check out and just go ahead and see what this team is really made of, as they will be going on the road here. They are facing one of these teams from the Ivy League in the Penn Quakers, as we'll see one of the best passing duos in college football. Carlos Montoya at the quarterback position, going to be looking for his star receiver, Willie Patterson, and that's what I'm talking about, man. That connection between Carlos Montoya as well as Willie Patterson, that is something to definitely watch out for over the course of this game. But Penn has something to say. You know, they're 1-1. They're a decent little football team, and they were driving downfield, except problem is they fumbled the football, and now you gave a ranked top 25 team a chance to score, or at least provide a goal opportunity. But right now, still all 9 up at 0. Actually, it takes a pick 6 here for New Hampshire to get on the board. That's Brandon Terrell with that interception there. Number 8 with the coverage. So we'll see if we can see Carlos Montoya and Willie Patterson connect here in the back of the end zone. As we do just that, Willie Patterson, huge touchdown grab as New Hampshire with a 14-0 lead here. And this was the team that I expected to really come out and watch, as New Hampshire really trying to come out here, prove that they're a top 25 team in the nation. But Willie Patter with bigger things, man, as Willie Patterson now has 2 touchdowns in this game. It's now 21-0 as Penn drops back and throw it over the middle. Their star duo going to get a little bit more involved. Finally had some time to go ahead and pick up the first down here, but nothing really coming out of it. Although they do force the Wildcats to punt this football away here, as now punt is underway. We'll see if Penn can go ahead and take advantage of it, but it's fumbled and New Hampshire is going to recover. That is the 3rd turnover of the day for the Quakers, and we are not even out of the first half yet. Not a winning formula if you want to pull the upset and take down a top 25 team on your home stadium. As a throw to the right hand side, that gets intercepted. Carlos Montoya staring his receiver down, and Brian Hall is going to get the interception, his first interception of the season. But again, they can't take advantage. Their offense just completely stagnated. Either it's been 3 and outs for the most part, or it's been straight up turnovers as they punt this football away. Willie Patterson going to return it. He does have a lane to work with, and he's going to celebrate down the side because he is wide butt naked open, as it's another touchdown for the Wildcats. Now 28-0 with a few minutes left to play here in the first half. Montoya looking down the left-hand sideline, one-on-one coverage, and just dropped that thing right in the bucket. And now 35-0 with a desperate response needed from the Quakers. Dropping back, looking to the left-hand side. It's a beautiful throw. And for the first time today, the Quakers are in New Hampshire territory. Nice job initially with the press coverage, but the man can only press for so long. As now 3rd and 9, trying to pick up the sticks after a really big play made on the earlier portion of this drive. But, you know, simply does not happen, unfortunately. And once again, Penn has to go ahead. They have to punt this football away, as now they put it back in the dangerous hands of Willie Patterson. As I don't know what Penn's doing with their coverage. I don't know why they keep going to him, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. But let's be real, it's really not working right now. And New Hampshire wins convincingly. They are now 59-0 with their win. So next game that we're going to go ahead and cover, one of the best teams in the FCS. I mean, y'all already know this from IRL. North Dakota State, we know that they're a dominant force in the FCS. So that brings us here into the Fargo Dome here in Fargo, North Dakota, as they had a really big win back in week number 2 against Oral Roberts. They were on bye the previous week, and we will now check out the Elon Phoenix, which is who the experts actually picked to win this game. But I don't think the experts know that North Dakota State really built like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game ends up turning out in a non-max capacity crowd, as we go ahead and get this game underway. And we don't even get settled in for the opening kickoff, and we already got a score on the board. North Dakota State with a 7-0 lead. As now the Elon Phoenix offense takes the field for the first time today. We're going to throw deep downfield. But it looks like that ball was underthrown. And that's going to be costly as well. As we don't only have one touchdown within the first minute. Oh no, we have 2 touchdowns in the first minute of action here. As it does, at least from the Pontiac game-changing performance replay, it really does seem like that ball was simply thrown for grabs. And yeah, that isn't going to necessarily work, as we have yet another turnover. North Dakota State. I think this might be the first time that we see our offense take the field, since that wasn't brought back for a touchdown by either their defense or their special teams. So we'll see what Alexander does with the option, as he does pitch it out to the running back, and the option simply ran for perfection. Alexander sucking in the defense, and Larson is just too quick. He gets to that corner with relative ease. As the Bison, they are a run-heavy squad, man. They will pound the rock on you until you are calling for uncle. You're calling for mercy. And we're seeing that really play out here. 28-0 in favor of the Bison here. As now, dropping back, facing some pressure, and can't get away from the pressure, as well as Michael Pugh is going to go ahead. He's going to get his first sack of the season. And North Dakota State taking over. Great field position to start, as Alexander once again pitching it out to the right-hand side. And it's going to end up being another touchdown for the Bison, as Smith does end up moving to the perimeter. And once again, Elon just doesn't have the corners to really cover. But it's not all bad. Elon does get a good play. Willie Hines does manage to go ahead and pick up the first down here. A nice throw, by the way, to get it past the corner. So we'll see if they can go ahead and build off of it, as they'll go ahead and pass it here on 2nd and long. But the entire offensive line, it seemed like, absolutely collapses on itself. I mean, look at this. Like, there are like 2 or 3 guys like in the backfield. I mean, how are you going to be able to make any play without that offensive line? It looks like what Joe Burrow had to deal with prior to this offseason. And the problem is, Elon's quarterback is not Joe Burrow. You know, he's not that guy. But Brian Alexander, though, you know, he's more known for executing that option style of play. He can throw a couple of passes as well, and actually executes a pretty good quarterback draw as well, as Brian Alexander was able to get the defense to commit to the pass there. Beautiful job. And now it's 42-0, as Willie Hines just absolutely getting ramsacked in the backfield. Doesn't even remotely have any time to do anything. He does manage to get this pass off, and it's a great play and all, but just wasn't consistent enough. And North Dakota State, they win big. They win 76-0. So this was a game that I actually personally selected. Samford from the new look Big Ten is going to be taking on this UMass squad. And UMass, you know, starting to get close to getting ranked. They're ranked number 40 in the nation as of right now. They come in 2-0. But, you know, Samford's a good squad as well. So I'm actually really curious to see how this game does end up turning out. Whether Samford or UMass ends up winning this game. So gonna want to sit tight for this one. Definitely should be one of the more intriguing games of the week in terms of actual competitiveness. So Samford will start with the football. They will go ahead and actually get a pretty good run here. They get across midfield and pick up 21 yards for the first down. But Mark Bell has a pretty tough test here. He's going up a top 10 defense, a defense that hasn't even allowed 200 yards a game this season so far. So gonna see what's gonna happen here, as this quarterback's gonna scramble and he gets loose with it, and it goes for a huge first down, setting him up into the red zone and a chance to strike first. Bell, end zone, touchdown, Samford. And the Bulldogs strike first, taking a 7-0 lead against the Minutemen of UMass. As now, UMass going to look to respond here, but Samford going to make things extremely difficult here as UMass cannot respond. It's now 3rd and 12. A chance to make this a 2-score game, and back in the end zone, he just got mossed. He got mossed, bro. That's crazy. 14-0 now as they try to, get back at it, try to set up some kind of screen there. But Sean Willis blew up that play extremely quickly. I mean, the tackle just could not block him, unfortunately. And now it's 3rd and 15, working with originally a clean pocket, but just could not find anybody to get open downfield, unfortunately. So Nate Bradley is able to eventually get to his quarterback. And still, 14-0 game here as we get into the last couple of minutes here of this first half. And this Samford defense is still all over this guy. Already with 3 sacks in this game so far. In less than 2 minutes left to play, a chance to make it 21-0. Gonna throw down the left-hand side. It's another touchdown for the Bulldogs. Samford now with a huge lead opening up. It's now going to be 21-0 following the extra points, as now UMass they are really down bad right now. They cannot protect their quarterback. They're already down big, and this might turn into one of those games where we cut the recording early. But wait a minute now, UMass, they get a turnover. It was a turnover that they needed in the very worst way right now, man. Let's go, baby. And a chance to finally get on the board. 1st and 10 from the 18, but gets lit up like a Christmas tree. And UMass, they settle for the field goal. But the goose egg at the very least is off the scoreboard. 21-3. Advantage still in the favor of the Bulldogs, as Travis Frazier has been doing a really good job today so far, and he's really feeling himself. But they get the ball over to Mark Bell, and Mark Bell gets lit up in the backfield. Didn't even get a chance to get going. So we'll see if UMass can go ahead and try to get themselves back into this game, as that was more of a desperation throw for Grant Brown, who at this point, he's actually the backup quarterback. The starter actually did end up getting hurt in this game, but something incredible starts to happen here. UMass might have started to find their groove a little bit, and they sure enough, they do manage to get their first touchdown in the game. They do end up going 4-2 here, but look at this throw by Grant Brown, throwing it right in the bucket. Beautiful throw to the tight end. And they will manage to get the 2-point conversion, but really starting to run low on time here, as Mark Bell is going to finish the job scoring a touchdown that should seal things up here, 28-11 in favor of the Bulldogs, as they decide to go ahead and kick this thing away. The Minutemen in desperate need of a spark here. If they want to go out and win this game somehow, this might be the spark right here down the sideline. And it ends up being yet another touchdown for UMass. So, 10-point game, things could potentially get a little bit interesting here, as the Samford Bulldogs, they go ahead and try to run out the rest of this clock. We're down to the final, minute or so of this game, but they go for it here on 4th down because they're outside of field goal range, and they don't get it. Okay, things might get a little bit interesting now. Minute left to play here in this ball game, and we'll see if Grant Brown can make something happen here, get another score on the board, as that is a good start to the drive. Beautiful throw over the middle, as UMass, they end up driving down the length of the field, and they get another touchdown. Just an extra point away from making it a field goal game, and now all of a sudden, if they can get this onside kick, then anything could happen here. But Samford is going to recover the onside kick, so it was a really good effort for UMass. It was a great job to try to, make a storm, make it something brewing, but it just was too little too late, man. They got to a really big hole early in the game. They could not recover, and Samford will come out on top. They win by a final score of 28-25, as it did turn out to be a pretty close game overall, pretty similar in terms of stats. UMass did end up taking more sacks in this game, but pretty clean game overall. Only saw one turnover from either team, and that was that Samford fumble that UMass couldn't capitalize, and that did end up turning into the difference. But a great win for Samford nonetheless. They improved to 2-1, and now we go to the Great Northwest, where Eastern Illinois from the Big Ten Conference, they take on the Montana Grizzlies, and it's a little bit of a chilly day out here in Montana for this early in the season. Only 51 degrees, but you already know Montana is used to it. Montana actually got a pretty decent football team for an FCS squad, so I'm really interested to see how Montana handles this matchup under the lights against Eastern Illinois. Should be a fun matchup for sure. I hope you guys are enjoying the content overall. If you are, again, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe. You have to be brand new, as that is a dot. Oh my goodness, that was not an easy of a throw to get through, but he was able to squeeze it up in there, and Montana is going to go ahead and take an early 7-0 lead here, as Mark Wilson does not have a lot of time in the pocket early. Ends up taking a huge sack. And watch out for Mark Wilson, man. If Mark Wilson has some time, he could make something happen. He's averaging 300 yards a game, 2.5 touchdowns per game as well. Definitely a really good quarterback here at the FCS level. But right now, he's not getting a lot of time from his offensive line, as Montana is currently all over him like cheese on macaroni. And Montana, able to, get a comfortable lead to start things off. But Eastern Illinois defense also showing up to play, though, as their middle linebacker is able to force the Grizzlies off the field, as Montana is going to be going ahead and putting this thing away. Got a fair catch in the air, but it looks like there was kick-catch interference, but they don't call it, though. As one of the more bizarre sequences that we've seen so far in this season, it does lead to a touchdown for Montana. So a really tough break for Eastern Illinois, which Eastern Illinois has got some notable alumni. Tony Romo, and currently in the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo, the current starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. We'll see what happens with that situation between him and the guy who was on the thumbnail back in episode number 1, Trey Lance. But right now, Montana is going to work. And again, Montana's a good football program, man. A little bit of a underrated football program. They did upset Washington in real life earlier this year, as they do have a 21-0 lead in this game. But Eric Vaughn makes a really nice catch. Had to really moss somebody to make that grab, as defender was in pretty good position. But here they are in 4th down, few plays later. Got to try to make something happen, as Mark Wilson fakes pressure. He tries to get out of the pocket, but he just simply runs out of time. The pocket collapses on him, and Mark Wilson simply has nowhere to go with the football. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes, it be like that, right? That you can't do anything to make things better. But Eastern Illinois, next possession, gets an interception, but it looks like there was also a fumble. There was a lot happening there. Oh my goodness. Really a lot to unpack in there. Montana does not take advantage of whatever ended up happening there, whether it was an interception and a fumble. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the tape to see exactly what happened there. But Montana still with a 21-0 lead nonetheless, as Mark Wilson is just getting absolutely harassed. As now, minute 23 left to play in this first half. Montana still have a free touchdown lead, taking a huge sack in the process, as Eastern Illinois, the Panthers, starting to get home, but going forward here on 4th down, try to get some points on the board before the end of the half in no man's land as they go for it on 4th down. Panthers send the blitz, and it ends up getting caught. Is it going to be a touchdown? No, it's not. But that should very well be field goal range for sure inside the 5-yard line. And sure enough, the Grizzlies do end up tacking on a field goal before we do end up going to the halftime locker room. So Montana with a 24-0 lead here in the second half, as the Panthers do have to go ahead and punt this thing away. Unfortunately, another 3 and out. Mark Wilson just not necessarily getting a lot of time in the pocket. And his special teams unit not doing any favors either, as that man is strutting down the sideline, and he's going to add another touchdown onto the board. And now a 31-0 lead for the Grizzlies. Make that 38-0. As the man with the American flag bandana, you know that mascot is absolutely loving it right now. So a 38-0 lead here, but Eastern Illinois getting a little bit tricky. They run a little bit of an option play, except they run it with the halfback. Definitely one of the more unique plays that we've seen here in this ball game, as Eastern Illinois is still looking to get themselves onto the scoreboard, but facing 3rd and long, but facing pressure by Mark Wilson, and that is going to force the Panthers to once again punt this football away. And that's been a problem for Michael Wilson all day, just facing a ton of pressure, and Montana is going to come out on top. They win by a final score of 45-0. So with just one more game left to play in this episode, let's go ahead and take a look around the NCAA just to see what scores have happened over the course of this week. First and foremost, we start with Florida Atlantic coming in number 12 in the country, handing the Redhawks of Southeast Missouri State their first loss of the season, losing 41-7, whereas FAU improves to 3-0. Meanwhile, Western Michigan, who comes in ranked number 19 in the country, they get involved in a overtime matchup against Northern Illinois and end up falling 48-45, which does put their top 25 status officially in question. Temple, in the meanwhile, also had to stave off an upset as well. Western Illinois, who was 0-2 coming into this game, they gave Temple everything they can handle, but simply ran out of gas, losing 33-22. San Diego State, meanwhile, took on the Tennessee Tech Tigers. Tennessee Tech winning earlier in gameplay this year against Indiana State, but they cannot handle the Aztecs, losing 41-17. Eastern Michigan, meanwhile, actually multiple top 25 teams getting involved in 12:30 State, as Eastern Michigan beats Murray State 45-16 to remain that number 4 ranking. Central Michigan handing the Skyhawks of UT Martin their first loss of the season, losing 42-6. Buffalo took on Harvard, as Harvard will continue to search for their very first win of the season. Buffalo winning 54-13. Kent State, meanwhile, took on the Sycamores of Indiana State in conference play, and Kent State was simply too much to handle, winning 34-0. As for Yale, able to notch their very first win of the season, going on the road against the Howard Bison, winning 35-3. North Dakota also is able to notch their first win this season, as they hosted the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State. The Devils falling 0-3 with this 30-point loss. Meanwhile, the Ohio Bobcats coming to this week ranked number 23 in the country, and they will remain in the top 25 most likely, as they notch a 20-point win over the Norfolk State Spartans. UCF will also make a statement in the top 25, as they went on the road to play against the Ivy League team in Princeton and kept them off the scoreboard, winning 38-0. William and Mary also suffering their first loss of the season when they had to go face an FBS team in the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa, of course, winning handily 35-3. Ohio State also got to play against an FCS opponent in Southern Illinois, who had that tough overtime loss last week. This was not even close, 56-3. North Texas also got the chance to play against Villanova, and they've shown why they're the number 1 team in college football, winning 42-10 at home. Troy also rebounding after losing to William and Mary last week, beating Grambling State 31-9. Kansas State also got the chance to play an FCS team in the Richmond Spiders, as the Spiders will fall to 0-2, losing 49-3. UL Lafayette will also have their top 25 status in question, as LSU does beat the Raging Cajuns 33-21. Idaho, meanwhile, taking on a team that they share the same conference with in many sports. Idaho beating Sacramento State 41-21 to improve to 2-1. Arkansas State also got the chance to play against Prairie Valley A&M, and Prairie Valley A&M are still looking for their first win of the year as they lose once again, this time 35-0. Eastern Carolina also will remain in the top 10 as they beat South Carolina State 44-6 on the road as well. UNLV will also continue to pad up their bid to make a potential national championship run, beating St. Thomas, one of the newcomers to the FCS, 35-0. Missouri also getting the chance to play an FCS team, taking on Weber State as the Wildcats fall to the SEC Tigers 45-10. SMU, however, almost got upsetted in simulation. They nearly lose to Texas Southern 20-17. They needed overtime in order to win this game. Rice also was involved in the later action at 8 p.m., but not for overtime. They beat Southern by 30 points in this one, improving to 2-0. Tulane also coming in ranked number 2 in the country as they hosted Sam Houston State and taking care of business, winning 24-0. And for the last 2 games, New Mexico State improves to 3-0, beating Omaha by a final score of 48-20. And then, in a game that was not televised, Georgia Southern blows out the Citadel 38-7. Georgia Southern improving to 3-0, while the Citadel still search for their first win of the season. So for the final game of the evening, we got James Madison, who is also making their very first appearance in the AP Top 25 within the FCS, of course. We have some ACC conference action. They will be taking on the Fighting Blue Hens of Delaware. And, they remind me a lot of the Michigan uniforms, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Y'all know the OGs that follow the channel. Y'all know I'm an Ohio State guy. So I'm not a fan of Delaware just because of those unis. But we are going to get a chance to watch a really great quarterback in Kevin Raymer of James Madison. Should be a really great matchup up and down. We'll see what ends up happening here as Raymer does end up dropping back the pass and a beautiful throw over the middle. It's not a touchdown, but it does end up being a huge gain that sets up the Dukes inside the 5-yard line. And Raymer looking for his 5th touchdown of the season, and he's going to get it. Beautiful throw in the end zone, and the Dukes will strike blood first, taking a 7-0 lead over the Fighting Blue Hens. But this Delaware squad's got some fight in them. They got a pretty good quarterback as well, who hands it off to the running back, who fumbles the football, and James Madison is going to recover. Huge defensive possession for James Madison as the Dukes, with one of the best offenses in college football, they start inside the 30-yard line. And smelling blood in the water, they look to go aggressive. Raymer in the pocket. He gets it out to his receiver, who gets into the end zone. And it's another touchdown for James Madison. The Dukes with a 2-touchdown lead here early in this cold night in Delaware. As the Blue Hens down 14-0, but they got some fight in them as a deep pass over the middle. It ends up getting caught. Craig Davis with a beautiful pass, and it gets them just outside of the red zone. We'll see if Davis can lead his team to a one-possession game. Rolling to his right, he's facing pressure, but finds his receiver anyways in the back of the end zone, and just like that, one-possession game for Corey Davis. As now, end of the first quarter coming close to us here as Kenny Raymer looking in the pocket. He is going to launch one as well. He's got a rocket, and he's going to get it to his star receiver. Touchdown, James Madison. As the Dukes displaying why they have one of the best offenses in all of college football. They end up scoring 3 touchdowns in 1 quarter. It's been exciting if you're a James Madison fan. But this Delaware team, they got plenty of fight. They will not lay down and die, not very easily, as James Madison gives up a score here. And all of a sudden now, it's just a one-score game, as Davis has some time in the pocket, has a chance here to potentially tie this game up here, as Sean Williams gets connected downfield, already with 4 catches and 113 yards. Is now 2nd and 9 from the 49-yard line as Corey Davis, he's got a clean pocket to work with. That's trouble. And now we got a big play downfield, and now Delaware in the red zone with that throw. Beautiful throw and catch. And unfortunately, doesn't lead to anything. They don't get any points off that drive. So it still is a one-score game, but Corey Davis also doing a pretty good job of exposing this defense, as the Blue Hens have already amassed over 300 yards of total offense. But they don't have the lead still. That could change as the ball is deflected, goes into a different direction, and Warren Bailey takes advantage. He gets the interception in the end zone. So the Dukes preserve their lead for the time being. We'll see if Raymer can add on to it. Last couple of plays here in the first half, and takes a huge sack, as that will wrap up the first half of action. But a pretty back and forth game, actually, as Delaware is still sticking around, but they will eventually find the end zone here in the second half with 3 minutes left to play in the third quarter. And all of a sudden, guys, we got a tie ball game. Are we going to see one of our first upsets in gameplay? James Madison, they just got into the top 25. They're trying to keep it here. And wait a minute, we got a fumble on the field, and it's going to be recovered by the Fighting Blue Hens. And there we go. All knotted up at 21 apiece here. As now, 1st and 10 from the 27-yard line. Corey dropping back as we look over the middle. He's got his man, and it's going to be in the red zone. Stephen Williams with a fantastic day today. His 6th catch of the evening. As a few plays later now, 3rd and goal. A chance to take the lead. Corey in the pocket, looks left, touchdown! Delaware, and the Blue Hens take the lead. So all of a sudden, Delaware with the lead here, but Kenny Raymer looking to lead a drive back as well, as he's got a man downfield, and the response is immediate. Touchdown, James Madison. It is all knotted up at 28 apiece, as Kenny Raymer had that time in the pocket and just threw a beautiful football. So this game really starting to turn into a track meet. All knotted up at 28. Corey trying to set up the screen, finds his running back. Running back gets loose, breaks a couple of tackles, and now in James Madison territory. How about this slip screen towards the end, as Corey Davis, running for his life, threw it up there and just found a way to make it happen nonetheless. As we are here, man, all knotted up in the fourth quarter. Two teams battling it out into the night. Who is going to come out on top? Who wants it more? As here we go. 3rd and 10 from the 13. Kenny drops back. He's got a clean pocket. Looks over the left-hand side and is broken up. So not a touchdown. James Madison, they got to settle for a field goal. This is just a great defensive play in the back of the end zone. As James Madison, they settle for a field goal. They still have a lead, but they can't quite put this team away, at least not yet. But we might be seeing that finishing blow as we are starting to get deeper into the fourth quarter. And the Dukes driving downfield again, but they only settle for a field goal. So that puts them up by 6. That could potentially be huge. A touchdown for Delaware will put them in the lead. 24 gets the ball. He has a man. Does he get across midfield? He does. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown. Touchdown Delaware. And Delaware takes the lead with 2:14 left. 1-point game. Game of the year so far, as both teams fighting and clawing with their fingernails. As we get into the last 2 minutes, Corey Davis throws a strike to the right-hand side. And now we'll get him across the 40-yard line. within the last couple of minutes of this game. Are they going to be able to run out the clock? James Madison, they run out of timeouts, and sure enough, Delaware pulls off the upset. And how about the best game of this episode for sure, man? We just witnessed an absolute classic here as Delaware comes out on top. 35-34 as the final score. And this was an exciting game. Both teams combining for around 900 yards of total offense. Definitely was the game of the year. And we saw plenty of great football. And it's a great way to wrap up this episode's gameplay. So we are nearly a third of the way through the regular season already, and definitely got some good action all across the NCAA, starting with this top 25 polls. And again, not really a ton of movement here. I mean, North Texas is still ranked number 1 in the nation, with Tulane, San Diego State, and Eastern Michigan all at least considering to get some votes. Also did have some near upsets, but not really a lot of movement here in the top 25. Big exception here though is Akron. They fall to 18 despite playing mid-Tennessee State. FIU was on bye. New Hampshire moves up to 20 after their blowout to Penn that we saw in gameplay here. And we do see 3 new teams enter the top 25 as well in San Jose State, UL Monroe, and Alabama State, who does get back into the top 25. They did not play that last week. They were also on bye, and so they are currently 1-1. Speaking of big things happening for New Hampshire, we got to talk about Will Patterson, man. This junior wide receiver, he really came through. He moves up to number 3rd in the Heisman watch list. He's really up there with guys like Jamar Harden, Nick Moses, who we saw a couple of weeks ago, and then also Barrett Haston, who had that big week 1 performance against Delaware State all the way back in week number 2. So then it also comes to no surprise that Will Patterson did get NCAA Player of the Week. He had over 300 all-purpose yards as well as 5 touchdowns throughout the course of the game. And then, of course, on the defensive side of the football, Florida A&M, they gave it to senior linebacker Pat Williams in a 31-28 overtime victory over Bethune-Cookman. Check this out. This has to be an NCAA record. 27 tackles this man made in the game. 27, 6 TFLs, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery. Absolutely insane stuff. And it helps Florida A&M in overtime, by the way, get their very first win of the season. But that is going to wrap things up here for week number 4, as next episode things are going to heat up. We are getting to that first third of the season. We have 5 top 25 matchups in the next episode, so you're not going to want to miss it. If you are excited, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you happen to be brand new, and we'll also check out the conference standings as well, so you won't want to miss that as well. But with that, this is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off. But I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.